Hello everyone and welcome to this quick tutorial video. My name is Elvis Okenwa. I'm the Customer Success Manager at LeadQuizzes. In this video today, I'm going to be showing you how you can navigate the various LeadQuizzes features and functionalities and how you can create your quiz from scratch, have it embedded on your website, and how you can also connect your email marketing platform, how you can brand your quiz and so on. All right. Now to get started, I'm going to quickly share my screen. All right. Today. Okay. Now, once you're logged into your LeadQuizzes account, you'll be taken to the LeadQuizzes dashboard, which looks like this. All right. Now, in here, you have settings. You'll see all the contents you've already created. If you have no content created yet, there will be nothing in here. Right? Now, the first thing I want to show you is on the dashboard, if you go to the settings section, if you click, now in here on the drop down, we have various functionalities that I'd like to explain to you. The first is site and organizations, all right? Now, if we click in there, this takes you to where you can see the website URL connected to your LeadQuizzes account. So in this case, while setting up your LeadQuizzes account, you were prompted to add a website URL. Now, if you want to change that URL or if you want to update that URL, you can do that on the sites and organization, right? Now, bear in mind, depending on the LeadQuizzes plan that you are on, you're either allowed 1, 5, or unlimited website accounts, okay? And this is where you can change the website account connected to that particular LeadQuizzes. Okay, now, so in here, you can see the website URL, you can see the name, right? Now, in here as well, you can add your company logo in a dimension of 200 by 150 pixels. And you can also decide if you want to enable or disable the branding of your logo on your quizzes. Okay, now also you can see the LeadQuizzes API key for your account. So if you want to, for example, connect to Zapier, you're going to be prompted or you're going to be asked to provide this API key. Okay, so under sites and organizations, just to repeat myself, you can change the website URL, you can change your company name, you can add your company logo, you can decide if you want to enable this logo on the quizzes or not, and also you can also find the API key connected to your LeadQuizzes account. Okay, now also we have integrations, which is the next item on the settings. Now, under integrations, you get to see all the integrations that we have natively on LeadQuizzes. Okay, now what this means is that you can automatically connect to any of the CRMs that we have natively without the use of Zapier. All right, now we have Infusionsoft, we have ActiveCampaign, GetResponse, Klaviyo, HubSpot, Drip, ConvertKit, Aweber. We also have the Google Ad Pixel, the Facebook Ad Pixel, and we also have MailChimp. All right. Now, if you want to connect to any of the CRMs, it's a two-step process. The first step is what you do under the integration section on the settings. So, for example, if I want to connect, let's say, MailChimp, all I have to do is go to MailChimp, click Connect. Right, and just edit it. So click Connect. So first, let's use some other one. Let's go to Drip, for example. All right, then you're going to be prompted to connect and authorize. Now, once you click on that, it's going to redirect you to the Drip login where you can add your, let's say, your username and your password, or if you need to add a secret key, depending on what CRM you're using, right? So that's the first step. The first step is under integration. You check the CRM you want to connect to. If we have that natively, you click on it and then you connect. Okay. Now, once you've done that, you're going to see something similar to what I already had for those integrations I have connected. All right. So once you've done that, you're going to see connected, similar to what I have in here for ConvertKit. Okay. And you can go in here to edit the connection. All right. Or you can delete it totally by clicking here and clicking yes. Okay. So that's under integrations. You get to see all the integrations we have natively on LeadQuizzes. And from this section, you can connect the first step. All right, so you connect your CRM to your LeadQuizzes account. Okay. We're going to go through the second step where we're going through the rest of the tutorial, but just have in mind the first step under integrations is where you connect your LeadQuizzes account to your CRM. Right now, under profile, you get to change, the name, email address, and so on. Under billing details, you get to see the billing details for your account. You get to see what plan you're on. You can upgrade or downgrade your plan. And also in here, you can decide to add a custom domain subscription. Okay, now what that means is if you want a situation whereby the URL for your quiz is custom, it's white labeled, we have a custom domain subscription that you can purchase. It's $99 a year. And that way we'll be able to redirect in such a way that your custom URL will be white labeled or will be custom. All right. So you go in here, you click add subscription, you add, it's $97 yearly. So you add subscription, select the property you want to add this to, and then you purchase it. All right. Now, once you've done that, we're going to automatically subscribe for a custom domain on your LeadQuizzes account, which is the first step. Okay. And you do that on the settings. All right. We're going to go through the next step during the rest of the tutorial. All right. So that's billings. And finally, you have logouts. Okay. Now, also on the dashboard, you have the help section. So in here, you can decide to go to any of our help docs, or you can chat directly with the member of our support team. All right. You can also join our community directly by clicking on this join community. It's going to take you, redirect you to our community page where you can sign up and join our community and participate in communications going on. All right. Okay, now we've gone through the settings, help join the community. Now, also on the dashboard, if you notice, we have embedded tracking. Okay, now, ideally, if you have everything set up correctly, or if you have your embedded tracking code on your website, this should be green. All right, so this should be green, not gray. All right, now bear in mind, if you want to embed your quiz on your website page, if you want to enable a website pop-up or an announcement bar for your quiz, you need to have the embedded tracking code installed on the website page or pages in which you want to perform any of these actions. All right, so it's very important. The embedded tracking code needs to be installed on the website page or pages where you want to have a website pop-up, announcement bar, embedded quiz. If you want to have a URL redirect to another page on your quiz, you also need to ensure the embedded tracking is set up on your website. And it's straightforward. So if you click on embedded tracking, now in here, you simply copy this tracking code, go to the header of the website page, add the code in there, save it. Then you come back to your LeadQuizzes, click on install the code, put in the URL or the page URL where you have the code embedded, click verify, and it's going to let you know if it was successfully installed or not. And if it was successful, this is going to show green. Okay, so very important. All right, now we're going to delve into the quiz itself. Okay, now with LeadQuizzes, you can create different kinds of quizzes, surveys, questionnaires, forms, you name it. Okay, now to do that, first of all, we have over 80 templates that you can automatically upload onto your platform, make modifications, and publish it as yours. All right, so we have all these templates you see here on business, cars, education, finance. We have survey templates, we have form templates, we have different types of quizzes, and so on. Right, so if you want to make use of any of these templates, simply go to that particular template. So let's say, for example, we want to make use of, let's do one for health and fitness. Effective workout quiz. Just go to the template, click use. Now, once you do that, it's going to upload this template onto your account, and then you can make modifications. All right. So if I go back to the dashboard, you can see that this template has been uploaded onto my account, and I can decide to go in and make modifications to the quiz questions, to the results, to any aspect of the quiz. All right. Now, but let's say you don't want to make use of a template and you want to create your quiz from scratch. Okay. Now you go to create new. So create new right there. Now we have two types of logic in which you can use to create a quiz. The first is the outcome logic, all right? And the second is the scoring logic. Now with the outcome logic, you basically give a correlation between the question answers and the results in your quiz. And our system will check which of those results has the most answers correlated based on the correlation you gave and the answer options the quiz taker answered. All right. Now, based on that, the system will pull in one of those results for the quiz taker. Okay. So with the outcome logic, all you have to do on your part is give a correlation between the question answers and the results. For the scoring logic, you basically add weights or scores to each question answer. All right. And for the result, you assign ranges. Okay. Now, at the end of the quiz, our system is going to check the calculation of all the questions based on the weight you added, and it's going to check, okay, if of the total, which of these ranges of result they fall under, and it's going to pull that result for the quiz taker. All right, so it's straightforward. If you want to give your quiz takers a score, a particular score, you use the scoring logic. If you want to direct them to a particular outcome based on the way they answer the questions in your quiz, you use the outcome logic, all right? And I'm going to show you how both of them look like in a second. So for the outcome logic, you simply select, put your quiz title. So for example, what is your skin score? You click continue, right? Now, once you've done that, it's going to take you to the quiz creation dashboard, right? Now in here, you can add the cover page, you can add the question element, you can add the form field, and you can add the results, all right? Now to add the cover page is straightforward. You drag the cover page section to the start screen, and the pop-up that comes up, you put your quiz title. So for example, let's say, what is your skin score? You put a description. Right? And you give your button a label. And you save it. Now we have the cover page down. Okay. Then for questions, we have two types of question formats. We have the text question. Now with the text question, the answer options are in text. All right. So for example, let's say, what is your gender? For example. Now the answer options are going to be in text format. All right. Now bear in mind also you can enable for multiple selections. So if you have, let's say 4, 5, 6 answer options, and you want to select 2 or 3, you can enable multiple selection for each of the questions. Okay, and then you save it. Now that was a text question. Now we have the image question. Now the only difference between the text and the image question is for the image question, for the answer options, you have to add images. All right. So for example, let's do the same. Let's say, what is your gender? That's a question. Male, let's see, female. All right. Now you can see you have to add images, which are going to serve as the answer options. All right. So in here, if you click on the icon, the image icon, click here, it will take you to your system. And then you can click on the image of a female, for example. Just going to use this for example. You're going to be prompted to crop. And there you have it, for example, right? So those are the two kinds of question formats we have. And you can use a combination of both of them in your quiz. Bear in mind, when you use image questions, the likelihood of your audience completing the quiz is higher because people are more prone to visual than text, all right? So I've explained the text question, the image question. So once you have your questions dialed in, the next step is you want to add a form field, all right? Now for the form field, you drag to the contents element. You add the form header. So in here, you can say, for example, fill in your information to get your results. And what information? So let's say we want to ask them for the first name. You can decide to mark this as required or not. So that means even if they don't fill this in, they can still submit. But in this case, we want to mark it as required. And the email address. And then we save it. And that's how you add a form field, all right? But bear in mind, we have a lot of fields, so you can collect the last name, the phone number, depending on what your goal for creating the content is, okay? But we have all these fields, the check boxes, drop down, date, time, country, websites, and so on. We have all those fields that you can use to request for information from your quiz takers, right? So that's the form field. Now we also have the text elements and the image or video elements, all right? Now the text elements simply can be used to give more explanation about a question, all right? Or it can be used to segment a quiz into different sections, okay? So let's say, for example, I have a quiz and the first, let's say I have a quiz titled, what is your business success? And the first question is on your professional skills, the second is on your accounting skills, the third section is on your, let's say, leadership skills, and so on. I can use the text element to separate the quiz questions, all right? So I can say, for example, section one, let's say, professional success, right? That section, okay? And I can have this all the way at the top before the questions follow, all right? Then I can create another one for section 2, section 3, and so on, all right? Now, similar to the image or video, the only difference is with the text, you can only create text. You can only have something like this. But with the image or video, you can also use it to achieve the same purpose as the text. But in this case, you can add an image or a video. So for example, I can say section 1, like we did, start section. But in this case, I can add a video or an image. I can add a video explaining that section and what you expect to achieve from that section, or I can add an image, that captures what that section is about, all right? So that is the difference between the text and the image or video elements, all right? Okay, so once you've had your cover page dialed in, you've had your text questions or image questions, or a combination of both, you have your form field in there as well to gather the information from your audience. The next step is you want to add your results, all right? Now, bear in mind, the only reason anyone takes your quiz or your content in the first place is that they hope to attain some measure of self-discovery upon completion, and that measure of self-discovery, you can provide that for them on the results page, all right? Now, in LeadQuizzes, we have 2 ways in which you can present your results to your quiz takers. The first is using the form builder, the result builder, rather, that we have on LeadQuizzes. So drag the result builder to the section. Now in here, you can add your result title, you can add text, you can add videos, you can add images, you can hyperlink images to redirect them, to a particular page and so on. So you can actually use this page to create an ideal landing page for your results, okay? Now we also have the button feature. In this case, you just add your button label, add your button link, and it's automatically, so for example, it automatically comes to the bottom of the quiz, something like this, right? Now you also have the feature to enable social sharing that brings in Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and your email. And you can also append UTM data to that particular button if you have that set up, right? I'm going to show you how you can do that, but you can enable your UTM tracking on a higher plan. That's the Pro and the Premium plan. But once you have that enabled, you can click on, and you'll be able to append your UTM data to that particular button. Okay, so that's one way you can create your results. I'm going to show you an example of a result created after this. The other way is if you don't want to make use of our result builder, all right, you can create your results on a landing page on your website and add the landing page URL to your quiz using the URL redirect. Okay, so let's say, for example, you have 3 different results. You can create 3 different landing pages. Have the images, the videos, the text, the promotions, or everything you want to have in there on the landing page, and simply just add the URL to those landing pages using the URL results redirect. So in this case, you add your URL, you give your result title, which is visible to only you. And once the quiz taker completes the quiz, he gets redirected to the URL most suitable based on the answers he chose to the quiz questions. Okay. And lastly, we have Calendly. So basically, you can enable Calendly on your result builder if you're using the result builder functionality. And that way they can, from your results, schedule a consultation, schedule a call directly on your calendar. Right? Okay, so quickly, I'm going to jump to one of the quizzes I have that is fully created. So let's make use of this one, effective workout quiz. All right, so you can see we made use of text questions. It's all text. We have the form field. Like I said, first name, email. We have 3 different results that were created using the result builder. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to explain to you is, remember I said using the outcome logic, you give the correlation between the question answers and the result. Okay, now how do you give this correlation? Now, on the outcome logic, you have this question mapping icon that you can use to give this correlation. Now, a couple of things that you should have in mind. The first is only give correlation to those questions that you want to have an impact on the results. All right, now what does that mean? That means you don't need to give a correlation for all the questions in your quiz, except they all have an impact on the results. All right, so that's the first thing to note. Now, secondly, if I click on the icon, you can do multiple mapping. So let's say, for example, option A, option B both correlate with the workout is not effective. I can map both options to that particular result. All right, and to do this, you just drag and drop. So in here, what you do is you give the correlation between the question answers and the results. So for question 1, do you avoid strength training? These are the question answers. These are the results you will have for this quiz, right? So all you have to do on your part is give the correlation by dragging and dropping. And like I said, if more answer options correlate with more than one result, you can do multiple mapping. Okay. Now, by the time you've done this for those questions that you want to have an impact on the result, what happens is upon completion of the quiz, our system will look at the different results, look at the questions that were mapped to the different results. Now look at the answer options the quiz taker chose. All right. Now, based on the correlation that you gave and the answers the quiz taker chose, our system will pull in one of this result that has the highest correlation for the quiz taker. Okay, and that is how the outcome logic works. Right. So on your part, simply give the correlation. Bear in mind, only correlate those questions or only mark those questions you want to have an impact on the result. And also you can do multiple mapping. Right. So that is with the outcome logic. All right. Now, before I delve a bit deeper, I would like to explain the scoring logic to you. All right. Now, with the scoring logic, let me just find the score please. That's also an outcome logic quiz. 1 second. Let's look for a scoring logic quiz. There you go, scoring logic. Now everything remains the same between the outcome logic and the scoring logic. The only difference is when creating your questions. So as you can see, for each question, you are prompted to add a weight or a score. All right. So in this case, if you answer yes, you get a 0. If you answer sometimes a 5, no, or 10. And also, if you notice, we don't have the outcome mapping feature here because you've already added a score to each of the questions. Okay. Now for the results as well, you assign weights. All right. So for this result, all those that get cumulatively between 0 to 33, they get this result. Okay. All those that get between 34 to 65, they get this result, and all those that get 66 to 100, they get this result. Right. Now, bear in mind that cumulatively, it doesn't have to be 100. You can do this over 10, but it all depends on the way you plan to weight or to score different answer options. So in this case, if this was 1 and this was 2, I can have my ranges, 0 to 3, 4 to 6, and 7 to 10. All right, so you can play around with different scoring depending on what you're trying to achieve, right? And also on the results section, you can show the quiz takers the exact score they got. Okay, so the trick to doing this is in here where it says set score display message. All right, now out of the total score that they could possibly get, you scored. So that's the way you can type it. So if it's out of 10, you scored. What happens is upon completion, our system will check what they scored and it's going to add it in here. All right. But this text in here, you can decide what you want to have in there. But bear in mind, after the semicolon, our system adds the particular score they got. So advisably, you can use something like this. Out of 10, you scored 4. Out of 7, out of 200, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Right? And the rest remains the same. You have the button feature similar to how you have in the outcome logic. You have the social setting functionality similar to how you had. All right. And for the button as well, you can also enable UTM if you have that paid for and configured. Okay. So with this setup, what happens is upon completion, the system will do a cumulative addition of all the scores the quiz taker answered based on what you assign, and it's going to check the results ranges and see where does that score for all. So let's say cumulatively, if I got 42, 42 falls between 34 and 65. So the system is going to pull this result for the quiz taker. Okay. So bear in mind, with the outcome logic, you give correlations. With the scoring logic, you basically assign score and you assign ranges for the results, right? Okay, now next, the feature I would like to explain briefly before we move on to design is the logic branching functionality, all right, which is this feature, all right? And this appears both on the outcome and the scoring logic. Now with the logic branching feature, what you can do is, so ideally, LeadQuizzes goes in order. So after question 1, they get to see question 2, they get to see question 3, and so on. Well, let's say based on the way they answered a certain question, you want to jump them to a particular result, directly to the form field, or you want them to skip certain number of questions, you can use the logic branching feature to achieve this. All right. So if you click on that, this is the quiz question. Is your skin oily and prone to pimples or acne? That's the question. Now for conditions, if they say yes, I can send them to a totally different question, not in the order. I can send them to the form field, or I can send them directly to a result, right? So let's say in this case, I want to send them to a question. Now we can add multiple conditions. So that's if they said yes. Then now if they said sometimes, we can do the same. If they said no, we can do the same, right? So with this, you can basically personalize the flow your quiz takers take through your quiz, and that way, they feel that you're listening more to them. So for example, you can have a quiz that segments all those that are males to see a different set of questions from all those that are females. And then you can use the image questions to add images of males and females. That way it's more personalized, right? Now I'll show you an example quickly before we delve into the next step. I'll show you an example of one of the templates. So let's right. So this is to show you using logic branching, how you can personalize the flow for your quiz statements. Okay, now if you look at this metabolism quiz, I'm just quickly going to go to design. So we take a quick test. Start quiz. Now what I'm saying is, for example, in this quiz, you say you're a man, you can see the next questions, you see images of males. You can see you're 30. This question says, when it comes to body shape, men in their 30s. You know, now if I go back and I say 40, men in their 40s. You know, if we go and say, for example, in here female, images of female. Now you can achieve all this personalization using the logic branching feature. All right. Okay, so basically I've explained to you how you can add a start screen, how you can add the questions, how you can add your results, how you can correlate them depending on if you're creating your quiz in an outcome or discovery logic, and how you can personalize the flow using the logic branching feature. All right. Now the next step, once you have your quiz dialed in, is design. All right. Now in here, you can customize the look and feel of your quiz. So you can see you can change the font family, the main font color, background color, and so on. We also have a couple of predefined themes that you can automatically select, and it revamps your whole quiz to that particular theme. All right. So it's pretty straightforward. Once you're done, you click apply, and it's going to apply to your quiz. All right. That is under design. And also, if you want to add your own background image, you can do that. So on the custom design, you see in here, we have upload image. So you can simply go in here, click upload image, and you can add a background image to your quiz. All right. So let's say, for example, and there you go. So you can add your own background to your quiz. Okay. That's on the design tab. Now the next tab we have in here is configure, right? Now under the configure tab, we have general. In here, you can add meta information for your social network. So when you want to share your quiz on social media, it captures this meta information, all right? Next, you can enable or disable the LeadQuizzes company branding. All right, so our logo, you can enable or disable it in here. All right, you can also set your privacy text and your link. You can add that in here, and you can enable this either on the start cover page of your quiz or on the font field of your quiz. Okay. Now you can also decide to notify visitors that your site is tracking, is using cookie and tracking. By enable this, you can pick what text you want to have in there, and you can also enable or disable the step counter for your quiz. So when we say step counter, what I mean is this. All right, so this the way it says 1 of 26, we can disable this. All right, so this is the step counter. All right, then in here we can enable or disable UTM tracking, but we have to be on the Pro plan or higher to do that. And we can add static text translations for our quiz in here, right? So let's say, for example, you want the static text in your quiz to be in a different language. You can enable what language you want that to be from this section, right? But to do that, you also have to, go to sites and organizations. In here, we have translation. You can decide to add, languages you want to translate those static text to. For example, I can add powered by, should be in this language, question should be in that language, of, and so on. These are the static texts we have. So you can add, just translate all this to the language you want. So it's Italian, you put all of this in Italian and save it. And if you go back to your quiz under the configuration section, you can now enable each of the language static text translations you want. Okay? All right? So that's under general. So like I said, static text translation, UTM tracking, step counter, you can enable or disable it. You can inform your visitors, notify them that your site uses cookie and tracking. Also, you can have what text you want them to see. You can add your private policy text and add the link as well. And also your meta information title and description that's going to show up in your social media if you decide to share your quiz on Facebook or LinkedIn. All right. Now, next we have Zapier. All right. Now, Zapier, this is the API key you can use to connect your LeadQuizzes to Zapier. Next, we have native integration. Now, if you remember in the first part of this lesson, I showed you how you can connect your CRM under the integration section as the first step. Now, for the second step, you can do that under the configuration section. All right. So you go to native integration, add integration. Now, in here, you'll get to see all the connections you did from settings. All right. So let's pick MailChimp. If you pick the integration, it's going to pull in all the lists you have or all the sequences you have for that particular integration. Now, once you select that particular list that you want to have the leads from this quiz funneled to, the next step is to simply map the different fields and save it. Right? Let's do ConvertKit, for example. Let's do Aweber. Okay, so for Aweber, for example, it's faster. This is the list, email address, and map it to email address, subscriber's name. So you map the fields you want in the funnel to your CRM, in this case, Aweber. So I'm doing the email address and the subscriber's first name, right? And then I save it. Now, once I hit save, whenever I get a lead from this particular quiz, the information will be sent directly to the Aweber list called LeadQuizzes test list, right? So 2 steps. Under settings, you connect your integration. Under configure integration, you configure your list or sequence. You do the mapping. You know, if it has a feature to add a tag, you add the tag as well, and then you save it. Okay. Let's see for MailChimp one more time. Right, so MailChimp is this one. All right. So that's under native integrations. Then we also have webhooks. This is also available from the Pro Plan or higher, but similar to Zapier, you can pass your information via webhook to any CRM or any software out there that uses webhooks. All right, the process is really straightforward doing that. Next, we have email notifications. Now, under email notification, in here you can add up to 10 email addresses. Now, what happens is whenever you get a lead coming to your quiz, that you automatically get an email informing you that you have a lead completion in your quiz, right? So you can add email addresses in here that you want to get this notification email from LeadQuizzes, right? You can have up to 10 of them. So simply add it, save it, make sure it's enabled. All right. So under the configuration section, you can enable email notification. You can configure your Zapier integration or your webhook connection. You can also configure the native integrations that we have on LeadQuizzes that you added under this integration section. All right, you can configure those integrations in here on the integration. And on the general, everything that has to do with your meta information, privacy policy, informing your users you are tracking their cookie, the step counter, enabling, disabling it, UTM tracking, and static text translation can all be done under the basic settings, right? Now, next we have the share tab, right? Now, under the share tab, whenever you create a quiz on our platform, we generate a URL for that quiz, right? Now, Under the share tab, you can find the URL for this quiz. All right, so this is the live URL for this quiz. But also, we generate an embed code for that quiz. So if you want to embed this quiz on, let's say, your website, your page, you simply copy the embed code, go to the page and embed it. Now we have this embed code in three different styles. We have the custom, where you can change the width and the height. We have the responsive, and we have the full page. Okay, so simply select which of them you want, copy the embed code, go to your website, paste it in there, and you should have the quiz fully embedded as an iframe in your website. Okay, now that's the share tab. Now we have the website pop-up. Now let's say you want to enable your quiz as a website pop-up on your website on different pages. Now remember I said the first step is you have to ensure the embedded tracking code is properly installed on those pages. So remember I told you how to do this, right? So once this is done properly, you can go ahead to enable a website pop-up. Now to do this is straightforward. You go to the website pop-up, select targeting options. So if you want to target all devices, do you want to trigger on all pages that have the tracking code or on a specific page? So let's say all pages, you save it. Then you choose the behavior. Do you want the pop-up to show up after the page loads, or do you want it to show up after a certain seconds of delay, or when they're trying to exit the website? So you can pick what behavior you want your website pop-up to respond to, and how frequently do you want it? Do you want it to always show? Do you want it to hide for a couple of days after someone closes it? Or do you also want it to be visible to people that has already completed the quiz via the pop-up? You know, so you can pick the behavior and the frequency, and then you save it. Just time delay. And lastly, you just activate it. Right now, if you have your embedded tracking code installed on those pages, simply by activating it, your quiz is going to show up as a website pop-up on those pages. Okay. Now the next we have is the embed call to action. Now this feature is great if you want to have like a little embed call to action on your websites, or let's say in between blog posts. So let's say you have a blog post that you want a situation whereby there's a call to action that can bring up a pop-up whereby they take a quiz and they can close the pop-up and continue in the blog post. This is a great feature to use to do that. Okay, so for example, so score quiz. All right. So this is what it's going to look like. So let's say you have this in between blog posts, something like this. That looks great, you know. Then you can decide if you want, upon click, if you want a pop-up to be activated or this will be redirected to a URL. You know, if you're going to do this on a blog post, it's advisable to use activate pop-ups so you don't take them away from the blog post. You know, you can easily complete the quiz via the pop-up and continue reading your blog post, right? So simply copy this in between the posts, you paste it, and you're going to have something like this embedded. All right, so this is great when you're just trying to, you know, create a simple call to action whereby your audience can decide if they want to, you know, take the quiz via the pop-up or get redirected to a different URL while creating your blogs. Okay, now next we have the announcement bar. Now that's similar to the hello bar, right? And the first is your embedded tracking code. So if your embedded tracking code is installed properly, you can simply enable this on your website, you know, similar to what we did for the embed call to action. Right? You can save that. We select what happens when, you know, so we're targeting desktop, tablets, mobile. We're going to trigger on all the devices, on all the pages that have a tracking code. Okay, then we save it, then we select the behavior. as well. We save it and then we activate it. All right. So similar to how we did for the website pop-up, but this is for the announcement bar. All right. But bear in mind that before you do this, your tracking code has to be installed on the page or pages where you want to have this to show up. Right. So that's the announcement bar. Then lastly, we have the append class element. All right. So with this functionality, if we want to append like a website pop-up on a button on your website, you simply use this example, and you're able to append class to elements, to that particular element. Be it the button, be it an image, whatever element it is, you should be able to append class to that particular element. But for that to happen, your tracking code needs to also be installed on the page or the pages. Okay. So let's say you have a button on your website homepage that you want a situation where once they click on it, it brings up the quiz as like a pop-up. You use this functionality to append that particular class to the element. Right? Now, so you can see using all these features, you can have your quiz on your website in different ways and different styles, and that way you'll be able to generate leads from the traffic coming into your website. All right. Now, finally, we have the reporting section. Now, firstly, under the reporting section, you can filter for the dates in which you want to check for your reports, right? So you filter for the dates. Now, in here, under insights, you get to see a breakdown of how well your quiz is doing. So you get to see how many views to the quiz, how many responses. So views is those that saw the quiz cover page, all right? Responses is those that clicked on start quiz, all right? Then contacts are those that filled in the form in your quiz. Now, the way we calculate completion rate, we calculate completion rate as those that filled in the form to responses, not to views, all right? Because anyone that is, say for example, you have your quiz on your web as a website pop-up, anyone that lands on your website and sees the pop-up, we are going to calculate as a view, even if they don't click start quiz, all right? So our completion rate is calculated as responses to the total number of contacts you generated from that quiz, right? Now, moving down, you can see a summary of the breakdown, right? So for each question, you can see how many people answered, how many people viewed, how many people answered each question. Just give me a second. I'm going to try to pick a quiz that has some data so we can see a little bit what that looks like, right? So let's use this one, reports. Okay, all right, there you go. So we have 10 people viewed, 10 people responded. That means 10 people, out of 10 people that viewed, 10 of them clicked start quiz, but 9 of them left their information. All right. Now moving from question to question, you can see 10 viewed, 10 answered. You can see a breakdown of how they answered the question. And this is also great for testing purposes. All right. So if you see, for example, that you have a huge number of drop-off, to question number 1, you can decide to revamp the cover page. Maybe people didn't find your quiz title catchy, or change the image or the colors of your quiz and so on, right? Now, moving between questions, if you notice a very high drop-off between a particular question, maybe that question is too difficult for your audience to understand. So you can decide to revamp the question, change it, or delete it totally, right? But this basically gives you a breakdown of how your quiz takers are going through your quiz, and you get to understand, okay, where should I make changes to improve my conversions, right? Now, that's under insights, under responses. So under insights, you see a breakdown. Under responses, you get to see the actual email addresses and the answers they chose, right? So if I can put art to filter for just email addresses. So for each email address, you can see the answers they chose to the quiz, the information they gave, for example, all right? Now, also bear in mind that we have unknowns. So unknowns are those that started the quiz, but they dropped off before filling the form, And without them filling the information or leaving their email address, there's no way for us to be able to determine what lead that is, because the email address serves as the unique identifier, right? So in that case, just for visibility and for us to show you what's happening, we'll register them as unknowns, where you get to see, okay, where they dropped off, what's happened, and so on. Okay, so build tab, everything that has to do with creating your quiz, creating your results, creating the questions, the cover page, giving the logic, personalizing the flow. You do all that under the build tab. Now the design tab, everything that has to do with the look and feel of your quiz to make that similar to your brand, you can achieve that under the design tab. Under the configuration tab, everything that has to do with meta information, privacy policy, informing your audience that you're tracking their cookie, disabling the step counter, UTM tracking, static text translation. You can achieve all that under the configure section. All right, you can also connect Zapier, your webhook, your integration, and you can be notified via email notification when you get a lead. All right. Under the share tab, everything that has to do with having your quiz out there, we give you a URL. We generate a URL for you for the quiz that you can share on social media platforms. We generate an embed code for you that you can use on your website. You can also enable a website pop-up. You can enable an announcement bar. You can enable the embed call to action between your blog posts. You can append class to any element on your website. And that way you're able to generate leads from the traffic coming into your website, right? Now, under reports, we broke it down into the insight and the responses. On the insight, you get to see everything that has to do with the way your respondents are going through your quiz, and that way you can better test. You can know where to make changes, where to make improvements, and so on. And under responses, you get to see all the email addresses you generated for your quiz. And for each email address, you get to see the exact answers they gave to your quiz, all right? And you can export all that information in a CSV format for further analysis, okay? All right, so with all this, you should be able to create your quiz, have it on your website, and you should be able to connect it to your email marketing platform, and that's where everything is automated. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, you can reach out to our support and we'll get back to you. Cheers.